One of the biggest critiques of the financial independence retire early or FIRE community is that it only works for people that have super high incomes. The argument goes that for regular people, financial freedom before the traditional retirement age just isn't actually possible. I think that take is a load of crap. To prove it to you, I'm going to calculate when I would reach financial freedom even if I just made half my salary. And if you stick around until the end, I'll share three pieces of advice for reaching financial freedom on a low salary. I'm the fireman, and I've set the goal to reach financial freedom before I turn 30 years old. And obviously, to do that, I have to earn a pretty high salary. And I do. As a data analyst, I'm currently working my first job out of college, and right now I make approximately $100,000 a year. Now, that's partly because I live in a very expensive area, like a super expensive area. But the fact of the matter is, $100,000 a year is a lot more than most people make. So, is financial freedom only for people like me? To answer that question, I'm going to calculate when I could retire if I made half my salary, which, by the way, is much less than the average American salary. Let's go over my current financial projections first to see how things might change. After I pay a boatload of taxes, I have about $70,000 left over to do what I want with. I spend about $20,000 of that, which means on an after tax basis, my savings rate is about 72%. Now, let me plug those numbers into this handy calculator from Networthify. Using a few assumptions about market returns, I'm projected to reach financial independence in 8 years, which is exactly my plan. Okay, before you go complaining in the comments, I should note that I'm not factoring in taxes to this calculator. That's because my tax situation would change once I retire, so I can't really treat them as an expense now. There's no easy way to factor them into this calculator. The reason I'm not worried about this is because one, I'm not factoring in pay raises either, and two, my taxes would be way less in retirement. Still, just wanted to point this out. Okay, so what if I only made half as much as I do now? Well, then I'd be making $50,000 a year. The good news is, I wouldn't have to pay as much in taxes. So after paying Uncle Sam, I'd have about $40,000 left over to do what I want with. The bad news is, I don't have any room to lessen my expenses. I'd still be spending $20,000 a year. And that means my savings rate takes a big drop, down from 72% to 50%. So, what does all of that mean for my own personal financial situation? Would I be trapped in a life of labor? Could I not retire until 65? Would my dream of financial freedom not be possible? Well, let's plug in the numbers to the calculator and see. Oh, look, it's not that bad at all. Using the same assumptions about investment returns, it still looks like my career is only 16 years long. Now, coincidentally, that means I'd have to work twice as long if I made half as much. That might not always be the case. Taxes and investment returns will really fluctuate and will have a big difference on this. So, this relationship won't always hold. So, even if I made less than the national average, which is only like two-thirds of the average in the city that I live in, I still project I would reach financial freedom before I turned 40 years old. That's still almost like 3 decades faster than the average American. So financial freedom is definitely not reserved for the super wealthy. That said, obviously, most people earning $50,000 a year aren't planning on reaching financial freedom before their 40th birthday. So that's why I wanted to share a few pieces of advice for reaching financial freedom on a low salary. For one, the reason I'm able to retire at 40 with a low income is because I'm super frugal. When it comes to reaching financial freedom, frugality matters way more than having a high income. That's because low expenses help you save more and it also dramatically reduces how much you need to save for retirement. So, the first thing I always recommend is to look at how much and where you're spending most of your money. I've found that a lot of people have a lot of expenses they could cut without making their life any worse. Even if you have a low paying job, there's a good chance that you have some expenses that could be cut or reduced. And doing that could still make a big difference on when you'll be able to retire. If you really have minimized expenses, the next thing I recommend is trying to earn more. As important as investing is, most of the money that I retire with will be money that I earned in my career, not from investments. So make sure you're getting paid fairly for the work you're doing, or consider switching. And even if you're making as much as you possibly can at work, it's never been easier to make money on the side. For me, I run this YouTube channel and my blog, firemansblog.com. Now, those aren't great examples because I don't make any money from them, because not enough of you have smashed the like button and subscribed to the channel. Doing that would be really cool. But becoming a famous YouTuber isn't necessarily what I would recommend to reach financial freedom as fast as possible. The side hustle ecosystem is thriving, and a lot of my friends are making a killing on DoorDash or Uber or anything like that. The third thing you can do to retire with a low income is just move. There could be a few benefits to this. See, really high incomes are usually only found in really expensive areas. So if you're willing to move to a more expensive area, you might be able to earn a lot more. Of course, moving to an expensive area might not help your savings rate because you'll have to spend more to live there. But after making good money in a really expensive area, you can move back to a cheaper place. And that means that all of your savings in an expensive area go way further in this cheaper area. I actually plan to use this strategy myself. Right now, I'm living near Washington, D.C., which is insanely expensive. If I decide to retire early, I definitely will move to a cheaper area. And if you really want to get creative, don't just limit yourself to the country you're living in now. There are huge differences in cost of living around the world. There are some places in Southeast Asia where you can live like royalty for just $10,000 a year. What I wanted to show in this video is that how much you earn really isn't the most important factor in reaching financial freedom. In fact, as I explained in last week's video, how much you save isn't actually that important either. That's because whether you're earning a lot or little, the only thing that matters for calculating when you can retire is your savings rate. To see what I'm talking about, check that video out next. I'll see you next time.